Hey Krishna, everyone. We'll get started with the prayers. Yasya jnananjanashalakhaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yadkripatamaham vande shri gurum dinatarinam परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्यमीश्वरम् नमा ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपः कुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. Hare Krishna, thank you all so much for joining us today. And we are continuing our study of Srimad Bhagavatam. So before we get started, I have a question. If we can have some volunteers raise hand. What are the 6 questions that were asked by the sages of Naimisharanya? I think like last time we all can take turns and say one question each. Sadamani Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. First one is, what is the absolute and ultimate good for people in general?
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Second question, anybody? Praladananda Prabhu, Hari Bol.
The second question is the essence of all the shastras which you have studied to please tell us like that. That we get starums is what he's asking.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Essence of all scriptures. Very nice. Thank you. And Induleka?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Why did Lord Krishna appear in the womb of Mother Devaki?
Wonderful. Thank you, Mataji. That is the third question. Shama Gopal Prabhu.
What are the Purusha avatars?
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes. And Divyangi Lalitangi Mataji. Lalita Mataji.
Please describe the Leela Avataras.
Describe the Leela avatars. And finally, Ishwar Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah. Whom did the religious principle take the shelter after the Lord Krishna departure?
Wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So these are the 6 questions in the perfect order that you all have mentioned. And this is a sure short question, as I always say, as we always tell you that these questions are very, very important, which are the 6 questions asked by the sages of Naimisharanya. Now we have already found answers. So these 6 questions were spoken in the first chapter of the Bhagavatam. Anyone remembers the name of the chapter, the first chapter's name?
Questions by the sages.
Yes, the obvious, right? So the questions asked by the sages. Very nice. Now the second chapter begins to give answers. So the first and second question, what was the answer? Anyone knows?
It is devotional service.
Very nice, Mataji. Thank you. Devotional service. The third question, what is the answer?
To reclaim those who are in the mode of pure goodness.
Very nice, Mataji. Very nice. Thank you so much. Why did Krishna take birth in the womb of Devaki? That answer is to reclaim all the devotees who are in the mode of goodness. Very nice. And what is the name of the second chapter?
Divinity and divine service.
Divinity and divine service. Very nice. Okay. Then the fourth question and the fifth question. What are the answers to the fourth and the fifth question?
The Purushavataras are Karnadakashaya Vishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakashaya Vishnu.
Very nice. And then the next question, fifth question.
All the Leela Avataras were explained, and Lord Krishna was also there as the
Very
epitome.
Yes, he was also mentioned on the list. That is a good point. Yes, we will take off from there. Very nice. Thank you. And what is the name of the third chapter?
Krishna is
Krishna
the
is the
source.
source of all incarnations.
Ah, yes. Krishna is the source of all incarnations, and that is the theme of this chapter. Very nice. And especially today, we will be covering the 28th verse that is very, very crucial, also called as the Paribhasha Sutra of Srimad Bhagavatam. I hope to do some justice. I don't know if I'll do full justice, but whatever is minimum needed for Bhakti Vaibhav, because Jiva Goswami has written Krishna Sandarbha just to describe this. Of course, we are not going to delve into that. We are not going to go into so many details. But then a very brief summary of what Srila Prabhupada has given, and maybe here and insights is what we will see. Thank you all so much. So that was a revision of what we have done so far. So we looked at all the Leela avatars. Okay, so the last Leela avatar that we saw was that of Kalki Bhagavan, right? So Kalki, he appears during the conjunction of the two yugas. The Lord of the creation will take his birth as Kalki incarnation and become the son of Vishnu Yashas. At this time, almost all the rulers of the earth would have degenerated to plunderers. So again, this is a future incarnation that is being mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So we'll continue from text 26. Avatara hi asankyeya hare sattva nidhe dvijaha yata vidhashinah kullaya sarasah syu sahasrashah. Anyone for the translation?
O Brahmana, the incarnation of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from the inexhaustible sources of water.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. So the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable. Of course, 22 were mentioned right here in this chapter. But we must understand that this is not an exhaustive list. Like, for example, we see in the 11th canto a mention of Hayagriva. In the 8th canto, we will see a mention of Hari. Again, in the 11th canto, we see a mention of Hamsa. In the 4th canto, we see a mention of Prishnigarbha. And then we see all the Manvantara incarnations like Vibhu, Satyasena, Vaikunta, Sarvabhauma, Vishwaksena, Dharmasetu, Sudhama, Yogeshwara, Brihat and not only the future incarnations, the Manvantara incarnations, but also so many other incarnations in the bygone ages. So anyone knows who Hayagriva is? Just a one-liner for the benefit of everybody, if someone can share who Lord Hayagriva is. Yes, Sankari Kurmate.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my most respectful obeisances and my pranams to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis assembled here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So Hayagriva was a half horse, half human incarnation who appeared to save the Vedas, and he restored the Vedas and gave it back to Brahmaji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Yes, he came to restore the Vedas. Thank you so much. Hari, anybody knows who Hari is? He was a special custom-made incarnation. He came for one particular person. Yes.
Hari is the
Yeah, go ahead.
Hari is the Lord who appeared before Gajendra.
Yes, Mataji, that is right. He's the Lord who appeared in front of Gajendra. His name is Hari. And we'll know more about him as we read the stories of future Manos. Hamsa. Have you heard of Hamsa? He takes the form of obviously, I
Yeah.
think it's
Hi, Mataji. He was trying to explain the Vedas to
correct.
other people when they were bewildered about certain aspects.
Perfect, Mataji. Very nice. He takes the form of a beautiful white swan. Yeah. Then Prishnigarba. Have you heard of the same?
Dhruva Maharaj Mataji. He appears in front of Dhruva Maharaj.
Yes. The Lord who appears in front of Dhruva Maharaj is Prishnigarba. Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. He's again a four-handed form of the Lord, and his name is Prishnigarba. And Vibhu, Satyasena, Vaikunta. Vaikunta was the son of Vikunta. They are all Manvantara avatars. Vibhu, Satyasena, Vaikunta, Sarvabhauma, the future Manvantara avatar. Vishwaksena, Dharmasetu, Sudhama, Yogeshwara, Brihadbhanu. So they are all Manvantara incarnations. Just like how this particular Manvantara incarnation is Vamana, the brother of Upendra, the brother of Indra, who's Upendra, Vamanadev. So like that, we have other Manvantara incarnations also, and their names are given here. And not only future incarnations, there are also so many other Manvantara incarnations in the bygone ages. So here, we were discussing about this earlier also. This topic had come, and we were talking about how one of you had mentioned that is Praladan in the
Mataji, I had this question regarding Vishwaksena. There's this slok which says Notpadya Diratim. Is that related there, or there is some
Yeah, of course.
different?
Vishwaksena is one of the names of the Lord, definitely. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so that's related to that slok. Notpadya Diratim from Evikivana. Okay,
Yes,
thank you,
Prabhu.
Mata.
Definitely. Thank you. So this topic we had discussed earlier also, that the number of incarnations are extensive. There are so many number of incarnations. And the Lord, he manifests himself in various species. I think one of you quoted Rumpad Maharaj, and you were talking about how Maharaj says that the Lord appears in various species. Here is a quote directly from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the words of Prahlad Maharaj. Later in the 7th canto, we will go through this verse also. And Prahlad Maharaj says, "My dear Lord, you manifest as many incarnations as there are in the species of life, namely the aquatics, the vegetables, the reptiles, the birds, beasts, men, demigod, etc., just for the maintenance of the faithful and the annihilation of the unfaithful. So you advent yourself in this way in accordance with the necessity of the different yugas." So this was a quote by Prahlad Maharaj. And he says, in Kali Yuga, you have incarnated yourself as a devotee. So when he talks about the Lord taking a yellow color incarnation, and he's a Channavatar, that time he mentions that the Lord has come in the form of a devotee. He will come in the form of a devotee as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is directly from the words of Prahlad Maharaj. So the number of incarnations of the Lord are multitude, and he appears in all different kinds of species. And in this incarnation, Prabhupada is mentioning, this incarnation of the Lord in Kali Yuga is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in this 22 incarnations that we just saw, we didn't see the name of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then later we will see how some verses are dedicated to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the 11th canto. Okay, so there are many other places, both in Bhagavatam and other scriptures, where the incarnation of the Lord as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explicitly mentioned. Even in the Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, it is explicitly mentioned, Krishna Varnam Tvasha Krishnam Sangopangastra Pashadam. So his name is directly mentioned, and his activities are mentioned, and what all he would do is mentioned. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explicitly mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as in so many other scriptures. In the Brahma Samhita also, it is said indirectly that although there are so many incarnations of the Lord, like Rama, Nrasimha, Varaha, Matsya, Kurma, and so many others, the Lord himself incarnates in person. That is Krishna himself, Swayam Bhagavan actually, he himself comes in person. So Lord Krishna and this Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are non-different, they are not considered any ordinary incarnation. Actually, they are avatari. They are the source of all the incarnations that exist. And that will also be claimed by Srimad Bhagavatam in a few minutes. So this will be clearly explained in the next shloka. Prabhupada is telling. So many incarnations are mentioned. Actually, like Induleka Mataji pointed out, even Krishna's name was also there in the list. But then Bhagavatam will call it out separately, saying that this Krishna is the source of all the incarnations. He is not any ordinary incarnation who just comes. So the Lord is the inexhaustible source of innumerable incarnations that are not always mentioned. So here we don't have an exhaustive list because it is impossible to put together an exhaustive list, because as many rivulets are there, that many number of incarnations are there. As Prabhupada here, he says another analogy. He says the innumerable incarnations of the Lord are manifested all over the universe constantly, without cessation, as water constantly flows from waterfalls, or as there are number of waves in an ocean. Can you count the number of waves in an ocean? It is not possible. Can you really figure out how many streams of water are coming out from a waterfall? No, they are incessantly flowing. So the Lord's incarnations are multitude, and they keep incarnating every minute throughout the universe. So we also say, right, Krishna's pastimes, they are continuously happening in multitude number of universes. So everywhere Krishna's pastimes is continuously happening. As he is completing one pastime in this universe, another pastime is starting in another universe. So like this, these incarnations, they are all inexhaustible, and they're not always mentioned. But Prabhupada is telling such incarnations, they are distinguished by some extraordinary feats which are impossible to be done by any human being. So there could be people who are claiming themselves to be incarnation, but then Prabhupada is telling the incarnations who come, who are non-different from the Lord, they always exhibit something extraordinary. And generally, such things are recorded in scripture, generally. Okay, their activities are recorded in scripture, and they perform extraordinary feats that no living entity can ordinarily do. This is a general test to verify an incarnation of the Lord, if he's directly or indirectly empowered. So some incarnations are mostly plenary portions, he says. For instance, the Kumaras are empowered with transcendental knowledge. Narada is empowered with devotional service. The word here used is some incarnations mentioned above are not plenary portion, but almost plenary portions. So put that into your mind for the time being, because the next few verses, we will see what almost plenary portion is and what plenary portion is. Or almost plenary portion is equal to portion of a plenary portion. So what is the difference between plenary portion and what is the difference between portion of a plenary portion? So that is something we will figure out in the next forthcoming verses. So here Prabhupada has already given us a hint. He's saying there are many, many incarnations. We just discussed a few, but this is not an exhaustive list. And there are more number of incarnations. And what number of incarnations are there? As many as there are waves in an ocean, or water dripping down, or rather flowing down through the waterfalls. So the incarnations are innumerable. But you should always remember these incarnations have specific purposes, and they do something not ordinary human beings can do. And he says the incarnation mentioned, some of the incarnations that are mentioned in this list of 22, they are not directly an incarnation, meaning not Vishnu Tattva per se, but they are almost plenary portions. That means they are Shakti Avesha avatars. So for instance, the Kumaras are empowered with transcendental knowledge, Narada Muni is empowered with the devotional service, Prithu Maharaj is empowered with the executive function, Lokapalaka Shakti, and Matsya incarnation is a direct plenary portion. He's not almost plenary. He is direct plenary. Okay, so we'll know what is a direct plenary portion, what is an almost, or what is a plenary portion and a portion of a plenary portion. So here we have Matsya is directly a plenary portion. Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Vamana, and Nrsimha, they are all direct plenary portion. So the innumerable incarnations of the Lord are manifested all over the universe constantly without any cessation as water flows constantly from waterfalls. So some analogies that we have seen as waterfalls, we have seen the waves in the ocean. So these are some analogies. Rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water. So all these are different analogies to understand how the number of incarnations are innumerable. So we'll go on to text 27. Rishayo manavo deva manuputra mahaujasa kalaha sarve harereva saprajapataya smrita. Translation, someone?
All the rishis, Manus, demigods, and descendants of Manu, who are especially powerful, are plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. This also includes the Prajapatis. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
So there are some vibhutis, okay? Some who are comparatively less powerful are called as vibhuti. So we have plenary portion of a plenary portion, and we also have what is vibhuti, okay? The least is vibhuti. The next powerful is portion of a plenary portion, which is an Avesha avatar. And then the more powerful is a plenary portion. There are so many different words that we can use to describe these. In the next verse, we will see how another word, Amsha and Kala is used, okay, to describe the same. So for now, you remember there is Vibhutis, okay. Vibhutis are very, they're the bottommost, okay, in the list, Vibhuti. That means like in Vibhuti Yoga is there in Bhagavad Gita, right? So anything that is magnificent has the potency of the Lord. So these are all considered as Vibhuti. So there is Vibhuti. Above that, there is portion of a plenary portion, which is generally the Avesha avatars. Okay. And above that is the plenary portion, which is an Amsha of the Lord. So let's see what the next verse is going to tell us. Here we see all the rishis, Manus, demigods, and descendants of Manu. They all appear in every Manvantara. Every Manvantara, you have a set of rishis, like Mataji already discussed. She already discussed this. In every Manvantara, the set of rishis are there. There is a Manu, there are demigods, and there are descendants of Manu. All of them are especially powerful. Okay, some are plenary portions, some can be a part of the Lord. Okay, like for example, you have certain demigods like Yajna, who may be directly Vishnu himself. Directly means what? He is also a plenary portion of the Lord, you can say. So he can be a plenary portion of the Lord. But however, some others are portions of the plenary portion of the Lord, while some others are vibhutis. So in a Manvantara, so many different personalities may come, but it is a combination of many, many things. Some are Amshas, some are Kalas, and some are Vibhutis. That is what this verse is telling. Now in verse number 28, we will very clearly understand what this Amsha and Kala mean. Okay, so what is Amsha? What is Kala? What is the relationship between plenary portion and portion of a plenary portion? And what is a Vibhuti? So this is further clarified in text number 28. Now this text number 28 is there for memorization. So all of you can, 2-3 people can chant this verse. And not only that, it is a very, very important verse because it is the Paribhasa Sutra. And Saudamani Mataji, you want to start chanting? You raised your hand.
Yes, Mataji. एते च अंशकला पुंसः कृष्णस्तु भगवान् स्वयम् इन्द्राणि व्याकुलं लोकं विडयन्ति युगे युगे.
Thank you, Mataji. Anyone else would like to chant?
Mataji, I can chant. Ete cham sakala pumsa krishnastu bhagavan swayam indrari vyakulam lokam hridayanti yuge yuge.
Thank you, Prabhu. Vrinda Vishnu.
Chamsa Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayani Yuge Yuge.
Thank you, Sudarshan. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So this is also called, yes, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Ete changshakalam kalaha pumsaha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Nudayanti Yuge Yuge.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So this is the Paribhasha Sutra of the Bhagavatam. So now a question may be raised. What is the meaning of a Paribhasha Sutra? So this is defined in the Krishna Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami. He says, a Paribhasha Sutra explains the proper method of understanding a book. Okay, like for example, you have Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam has presented so many different verses. And some of the concepts presented by different verses can even contradict each other. So there should be one key shloka to understand the actual purport of a book or a chapter. So if you want to understand the concept or the actual purport of entire Srimad Bhagavatam, there should be one verse that defines that completely. It is like a key verse to the entire book. So there can be a series of unrelated facts. There can be many, many arguments between different verses. So all of this should be nicely reconciled by one particular verse. That one verse is called as a Paribhasha Sutra. Okay, so the Paribhasha Sutra, Jiva Goswami says, is generally stated only once. It is not repeated again and again in the book. And generally, it is placed in the beginning of the book. These are some characteristics of the Paribhasha Sutra. So this Paribhasha Sutra will govern all the contents of a large book with millions and millions of statements that could sometimes contradict each other and also have arguments with each other. Okay, so that one verse that is analyzed and understood is the verse which is 1.3.28. It is also a good idea to remember the verse number, especially for certain verses like the Paribhasha Sutra. So remember this formula 1.3.28. So the verse says, Ete chamsa kala pumsha. Now here, if you split this, ete means all these, all what? We saw a huge list of incarnations, starting with the Purushavatars. Remember, Mataji first covered the Purushavatars, and then we started seeing all the Leela avatars, right? So, Ete includes all these different incarnations. And you have cha. Cha means and. After saying ete directly, the words could have been ete amsa kala. Okay, the amsha and the kala. But then here the word cha is being used. Cha means and, which indicates not only these 22 or the Purushavatars that were mentioned before the 22, but it is everything, even that is not mentioned here. Why? Because already it has been stated that the number of incarnations is not limited to 22. It is like number of rivulets that are flowing. So there are multitude of incarnations. All these that is mentioned, plus those that are not mentioned. So that is ete cha. Next, amsha kala. So again, remember we spoke about plenary portion and portions of plenary portions. So already we mentioned portion of plenary portion, which is kala, is nothing other than the avesha incarnations. Okay, so we saw from the lowest, right? Lowest rung is vibhuti. Then we saw avesha incarnation. And then we saw what is known as Amsha or plenary portion. So Amsha is plenary portion. Plenary portion is like this Matsya Kurma. They are all called as plenary portions. They are actually as good as the Lord in one sense, because in Tattva they are the same as the Lord, but somewhat they do not exhibit all the opulences. They exhibit very few opulences. Okay, certain incarnations like Matsya Kurma, etc. They do not display all the opulences. Just some certain opulences, like for example, beauty or wealth. We'll see all that in the purport. Okay, certain incarnations display only a few opulences. So they are called as Amsha or plenary portion. So Ete cha Amsha and Kala. Kala is the Avesha incarnation. We saw in the 22, we saw a list of Leela avatars. In that, some of them were Avesha also, like the Kumaras and Prithu Maharaj and Narada Muni and so many others. So there were Amshas, there were also Kalas. Ete Chamsa Kala Pumshaha. Pumshaha means here it indicates of that of the Supreme, of the Lord of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, from whom everybody is coming, we saw earlier. So this Pumsha directly indicates the Lord. So all these are Amshas or Kalas of that Purusha, of that Pumsa, that Purusha. Krishna was also mentioned. Remember in that 22 we saw Krishna and Balaram were also mentioned. But here he uses the word Krishna's tu. Tu means what? Tu means but. But Krishna. But the Krishna that we mentioned in the list, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. He is Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in person. Swayam Bhagavan. He is Swayam Bhagavan. Now, this is a statement that is telling you that there are many, many great archers, but among them, Rama is the supreme. So when you make a sentence like that, it means that Rama is the best and he's the topmost and the suprememost of all archers. In English, if I'm saying there are many archers, but if I put a word but and add a clause and say Rama is the supreme, that means he's number one. Then only the rest of them are. Similarly, here the statement made is Krishna's tu, but Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. He's already mentioned earlier. And among all of these, Krishna becomes Swayam Bhagavan. He is Bhagavan himself. And you must have remembered in the previous class when we saw the verse that was talking about Krishna and Balaram, here the word Bhagavan was also used in text number 23. Bhagavan was used only here, for no other incarnation or no other form of the Lord did we use the Bhagavan word. Again, if you see in text number 28, it is mentioned Bhagavan Swayam. He is the Supreme Lord in person. He is the Avatari. From him comes everything else. He is not an Amsha. He is not a Kala. Otherwise, why would it be separated here in this verse? Yetecha Amsa Kala Pumsha. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. That means Krishna is the source. He is not Amsha. He is not Kala. That means he is Swayam Bhagavan. He is that Swayam Rupa Bhagavan from whom everyone else comes. And then this is common to everybody. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge is common for all the incarnations. That's why and what is the meaning of Indrari? Indrari means the enemies of Indra. Okay, Vyakulam, when they are disturbed, when the lokas are disturbed, at that time, Mridayanti. Mridayanti means he gives protection. Yuge Yuge, time after time, from age after age, he comes and he gives protection. Here, if you see, the second part of the verse is applicable to everybody, not just to Krishna. That's why Prabhupada, when he translates it, he says, all of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. Okay. Yeah, actually, it's very nice how Prabhupada says atheist and theist. Basically, the enemies of Indra are the demons. So he calls them atheists. And the Suras, or the demigods, followed Indra and his followers, he calls them theists. So this is how Prabhupada very nicely translates this particular verse. So the translation is all of the above mentioned incarnations. See, these are all ordinary incarnations, okay? They are avatars. So all of the mentioned incarnations are either plenary portion or portion of the plenary portion. What is a plenary portion? Plenary portion is an amsha. What are portions of plenary portions? They are kala. Generally, Shakti-Avesha-Avataras are kala. Okay, so you have all of the mentioned incarnations are either plenary portion or portion of plenary portions of the Lord. But don't think Krishna is one of them. But Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. He is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear, not just Krishna. Everybody, they all appear on planets whenever there is a disturbances caused by the atheists, and the Lord incarnates to protect the theists. This is quite general, right? Because even in Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamiham. This is the reason of my descent. Actually, all these incarnations, they are just coming to give protection to the devotees and then chastise the atheists. So this is a general statement, which is the second half. Now, I just want to mention two things. I won't bore everybody with too many details, but then generally there are a lot of others who are not following probably who are not great followers of the Bhagavatam, or who may not be Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So many other Vaishnava schools itself may argue, saying that here this with the word Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam is telling that Krishna is Narayan. He's like Narayan. Okay, that is the argument that most of the other Vaishnava schools will have when they read this particular verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is the followers of Srila Jiva Goswami who would say, no, this is Bhagavan Swayam. You should take it as Bhagavan Swayam. Why are you telling that he's equal to Bhagavan? So to refute that, Srila Jiva Goswami says that is why there is an importance of understanding Sanskrit grammar properly. In Sanskrit grammar, always the subject is mentioned first, then the predicate. Okay, in the formation of a sentence. Now, if I say, for example, let's see, if I say, Saudamani Mataji is the person I saw first. Okay, so if I say Saudamani Mataji is a very good singer, there what would be the subject and what would be the predicate? Anybody would like to take a guess?
Saudari Mataji is subject, and singer, that is the predicate.
Predicate. So Saudamani Mataji is the singer. Saudamani Mataji is the singer, right? So Saudamani is the subject, and the quality she possesses is that of being a singer. So similarly, here it is not mentioned Bhagavan to Krishna. Okay, that Bhagavan, Narayan, if you're telling Bhagavan is Narayan, just for the people who oppose this statement, if they are thinking Bhagavan means Narayan and Krishna is that Narayan, that is their argument. For them, Srila Jiva Goswami, he says, the sentence is not Bhagavan to Krishna. It is Krishna. The subject is mentioned first. That means he is Swayam Bhagavan. The Swayam Bhagavan quality is possessed by Krishna. So using the Sanskrit grammar, he defeats that argument of the other Vaishnava schools who may try to propose that Krishna is also an incarnation of Narayan. So that is one thing that I wanted to mention. And this is also there in the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So I thought it's very important for everyone to know that. One more point that is also consistently mentioned by all the acharyas is that it is repeated. Already Krishna was declared as Bhagavan. Okay, we saw in verse number 23, if you remember, nobody else was called as Bhagavan in that verse. Only Krishna was called as Bhagavan. All those incarnations, they were just mentioned one after the other, one after the other. And all their, either their mother's name or the place of birth or the pastimes they would do, all that was mentioned. But then only for Krishna and Balaram, it was mentioned Bhagavan. So again, now Bhagavan is mentioned. So one may argue, the other schools of thought, Vaishnava schools of thought, they argue that, see, in that 22 people list, 22 incarnations list, you already mentioned Krishna. Okay, that means Krishna is still an incarnation only. He is also in the list of incarnations. He is as good as all the other incarnations. There is nothing special about him. And in 28, they are just telling that he is like Narayan. That's all. There is nothing special about this verse, about verse number 28. So that could be the argument of the other schools of thought. But then Srila Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and all of them, they say, generally, according to, again, Sanskrit grammatical rules, if something is repeated again and again, like earlier, Krishna was repeated, Krishna's name had come in the list and he was called Bhagavan. But now again it is repeated, second time. It is emphasized second time. So if something is emphasized second time, then you should look at the second time it is emphasized. That statement takes priority over the previous statement. So you should not consider Krishna to be one among the 22. Rather, you should look at the second time call when Krishna is mentioned directly. His speciality is called out, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That way you can understand that this statement takes precedence over the other statement, and also understand there is something that the author wants to emphasize and separately call out. I mean, like you take one statement out and give it a lot of importance and call it out. Right? So that is what is being done in verse number 28. That's why the word tu is there. But yes, they are all great. All these incarnations have come. Some are amshas, some are kalas, and even vibhutis are also mentioned. But then Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Okay, so this is about the translation of this verse. Now we'll get into the purport. And of course, Krishna Sandarbha has so much more, and at your ease, if at all someone is interested, they can read. But none of this is needed for Bhakti Vaibhav. Bhakti Vaibhav means just follow Srila Prabhupada. So we're just going to continue with the purport. Okay, so let's see what is mentioned in Srila Prabhupada's purport. So Prabhupada says the same thing that we discussed so far. We'll see how he puts it in different words. He says, in this particular stanza, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is distinguished. He says he is completely distinguished from other incarnations with that word tu. But, right? So that word but. Yes, Praladananda Prabhu?
Mataji, I just wanted to, the slok in my mind is that in Brahma Samhita also it is propounded. Rama, the Murti, Sukha, there what is Swayam word is used. That's what I have thought.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for reminding us. Yes, very nice, Prabhu. Thank you. Yes, the same thing is mentioned in Brahma Samhita also. Okay, so here, in this particular stanza, Lord Sri Krishna, who is the personality of Godhead, is distinguished from other incarnations with the word tu. And though he's counted among the other avatars, we saw in the 22, his name was also there. He is counted among the avatars, incarnations, but out of his causeless mercy, the Lord, he descends from his transcendental abode. He's coming, that's Swayam Bhagavan. Yes, he may be called an incarnation by many people just because he's coming through the doorway of Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. Some people may call him an incarnation, but remember, he is descending from that transcendental abode. He is avatari. Though he is an avatara, meaning avatara means one who descends. All the incarnations of the Lord, including the Lord himself, they are descending. They are coming from up. When you descend into this material world, you're called an avatar. Okay. So in that sense, yes, Krishna is an avatar because he's coming from the spiritual world. He's coming from Goloka Vrindavan. So because of that, he's called as avatar. All the incarnations of the Lord, including the Lord himself, descend to different planets in the material world, and they also descend in different species to fulfill the particular missions. Sometimes he comes himself, and sometimes his different plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions or his differentiated portions directly or indirectly empowered by him, descend into this material world to execute certain functions. So that's Swayam Bhagavan, Avatari himself can come, his plenary portions can come, portions of his plenary portions can come, someone specifically empowered by him can come, all of them can come to execute certain functions. So originally, this Lord is full of opulences. He's full of prowess. What are the full opulences of the Lord? What are the 6 opulences of Bhagavan? Anyone want to say? 6
He's
opulences.
beautiful.
Yeah.
He is beautiful. He has all riches, renunciation, intelligence.
All beauty and
Renunciation. Very
riches.
nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. So there are 6 full opulences. Originally, the Lord is full of 6 opulences. All prowess, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, all renunciation. So this makes him Bhagavan. When they are partly manifested through the plenary portions or part of the plenary portions, it should be noted that certain manifestations of his different powers are not required for that particular function. Now, sometimes Matsya or Kurma may not exhibit all the 6 opulences. Why he may not exhibit all the 6 opulences? Because it may not be required at that time. Okay, it is not required for Matsya to exhibit all the 6 opulences. So he is not exhibiting all the 6 opulences. But Krishna is exhibiting all the 6 opulences in full. So here, Prabhupada, this is also an important question, this analogy. When Prabhupada gives a very beautiful analogy, he says, when in the room small electric bulbs are displayed, it does not mean that the electric powerhouse is limited by small bulbs. The same powerhouse which is supplying that electricity for those little bulbs in your house can also supply electricity to operate large-scale dynamos and with greater volts. Okay, the electricity powerhouse that is there somewhere in the city, it is not just providing electricity to light this bulb, these tiny bulbs. It is also providing electricity to light huge dynamos in the industry. Okay, even for them also it is providing electricity. Similarly, the incarnations of the Lord, some incarnations may display limited powers, like this little bulb. Some incarnations may display more powers, okay, depending on the time, place, circumstance, or depending on the reason why they have incarnated. Whatever is needed at a particular point in time, that much is displayed by the other incarnations. But we see in Krishna, all these opulences are displayed in full. So Prabhupada describes with examples in the next paragraph. He says, for example, Lord Parashuram and Lord Narasimha, they displayed unusual opulence in killing. Okay, so Parashuram and Narasimhadev, they had this exclusive, they gave a lot of focus to opulence of killing the disobedient Kshatriyas 21 times, and of course killing the great powerful atheist Hiranyakashipu. In fact, Hiranyakashipu was very, very powerful that even people on the other planets, they were trembling thinking about him. Even if he would move his eyebrow, they would start trembling. So like this, both Narasimhadev as well as Parashuram, they displayed this kind of an opulence. Now, this is a little bit about Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was very, very opulent, but then even that Hiranyakashipu was cut into small pieces by the nails of Narasimhadev. That means a materially opulent person cannot stand the strength of Lord Narasimhadev. Similarly, he talks about Jamadagnya, who is none other than Parashuram. So Parashuram also, he went around and he killed all the disobedient kings. Now, think about Narada Muni. Next example. The Lord's empowered incarnation Narada and the plenary incarnation Varaha, as well as the indirectly empowered incarnation Buddha, what did they do? They created faith in the masses of people. Narasimhadev and Parashuram, they showed their opulence in the power, okay, in the huge power that they displayed. Now, what about Narada, Varaha, and Buddha? They created a lot of faith in the masses of people. That is what they came to do. So they displayed that particular opulences of creating faith, preaching and creating faith in the masses of people. Next, the incarnations of Rama, Dhanvantri, and Balarama, and Mohini and Vamana, the incarnations of Rama and Dhanvantri displayed his fame. Okay, we all know to this day Ramachandra is very, very famous. His rule was very famous. So he displayed fame to a great extent. And also Dhanvantri, Ayurveda is so famous, like we need it every day, right? To maintain our bodies. Medical science is very important. So the incarnations of Ram and Dhanvantri, they display fame. And Balaram, Mohini, and Vaman, they displayed beauty. Balarama is considered very, very beautiful, very good looking, very handsome. Mohini, of course, the demons got bewildered. And Vamanadev also comes in a very beautiful dwarf form. So they all displayed their beauty. Dattatreya, Matsya, Kumara, Kapila, what did they display? Knowledge, of course. When we read the teachings of Kapila and we see the instructions that was given by Matsya when the boat was being taken during the time of the deluge. The Kumaras, they are an incarnation of Jnana. So all of them, they describe transcendental knowledge. Naranarayana Rishi, we all know, he exhibited his renunciation. So like this, all these different indirectly or directly empowered incarnation. What is the meaning? Indirectly means if it's a jiva, if that person is a jiva. Directly means swamsha, the Lord's own. Okay. So either way, whether it is a directly empowered, like for example, Sesha is he's directly empowered by the Lord. But whereas indirectly empowered by the Lord can be Parashuram. So all the different indirectly or directly empowered incarnations of the Lord, they manifested different features prominently. Like Ramachandra, he became very famous. He showed fame. Narasimha showed strength. Each of them, they had one particular quality that they displayed very brightly, like that the powerhouse and those bulbs. One particular feature was seen very heavily. But then Lord Krishna, who's the primeval Lord, exhibited the completeness of the features of Godhead. Therefore, it is confirmed that he is the source of all incarnations. He had all six opulences and he displayed all those six opulences in full in his pastimes. So the most extraordinary feature exhibited by Krishna is the manifestation of the pastimes with the gopis. And these gopis, that is the most beautiful feature of Krishna's pastimes. And of course, it should not be misunderstood. And Prabhupada warns us that we don't jump into the 10th canto pastimes directly. Rather, we go systematically, we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then after understanding Krishna's supremacy in the 9 cantos, then we go to the 10th canto. So, Prabhupada says, according to Srila Jiva Goswami's statement, in accordance with the authoritative sources, Lord Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. He is the source of all the incarnations. He is Avatari. And we saw how Jiva Goswami also, we saw that in a brief way, how he systematically defeats all the other arguments and he establishes Krishna as the supreme. So we should understand Krishna is not, he doesn't have any source. He is in fact the source of all the incarnations. But Krishna himself doesn't have another source. All the symptoms of the truth, of the supreme truth, are fully present in Krishna. And in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna himself declares that there is no truth greater than him or equal to him. So not only is Bhagavatam saying that, not only are devotees telling that, Krishna himself, he comes and tells there is nothing greater than me. So this stanza, the word Swayam is particularly mentioned to confirm that Lord Krishna doesn't have any other source other than himself. That's why it is Swayam Bhagavan. He himself is Bhagavan. He is Bhagavan Swayam. There is no one else who becomes his source. And many other incarnations could be described as Bhagavan. Prabhupada himself is now clarifying. Sometimes we call Narada Bhagavan. Sometimes we say somebody else is Bhagavan. So we call so many people Bhagavan. But then, though many people are described as Bhagavan, they are described as Bhagavan because they are exhibiting a particular specific function. When Narada is exhibiting that devotional service specifically, he's called Bhagavan Narada. Okay, why are they called Narada? Because they are showing that Bhagavatvam. They are specifically exhibiting an important function of the Lord. But you should understand, nowhere are they called the Supreme Personality of God. And nowhere is anyone else called as Swayam Bhagavan. You can read all the scriptures, all the Puranas, everywhere. Nobody is called as Swayam Bhagavan like Krishna is called as Swayam Bhagavan. So the Swayam represents the supremacy as the Samam Gonam. So that word Swayam, it represents that in so many scriptures, you can see everyone is the same. All the Vishnu Tattvas are glorified as being equally potent. But then when you come to the Srimad Bhagavatam, here you see the word Swayam Bhagavan. That means he's one without the second. So he is the one who has expanded himself into different incarnations. So he becomes the parts, portions, particles, and so on. So he is Swayam Rupa, and then he expands as Swayam Prakash, Tadet, Ekatma Rupa, Prabhava, Vaibhava, Vilasa, Avatara, Avesha, Jiva. So like this, there are so many expansions of the Lord. But remember, Krishna is always Swayam Bhagavan. And all are provided with innumerable energies, all these different incarnations, but all this stems from Krishna. Actually, Brahma Samhita is again a very good example of this. And in Brahma Samhita also it is mentioned that he is the original candle, right? From him, there are so many other candles that are lit. Yes, they are all Vishnu Tattva, but then there is one source to all of them. So, and further, Prabhupada, he goes on to describe this in great detail. He says Krishna has 64 principal attributes. You all know that, and since most of you have completed Bhakti Shastri, you must have read about this already. So Krishna is having 64 principal attributes. So 64 qualities of Krishna, and all the expansions or categories of the Lord, they only possess some percentage of these attributes. So if there are 64 qualities of Krishna, Krishna possesses these 64 qualities 100%. Okay, 64 qualities 100%. But then his expansions like the Swayam Prakash, Tad Ekatma, and all the different avatars who are also Vishnu Tattva, they possess up to 93% of transcendental attributes. Now, for those who want a quick overview of what this Tad Ekatma and all that is, so basically there is Swayam Bhagavan, just a quick one, okay? I'm not again doing too many details like it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll just give an overview from Laghu Bhagavatamrita. So you have Swayam Bhagavan. From Swayam Bhagavan, there is Tad Ekatma Rupa. In that, there are two varieties. One is called as the Vilasa and the other is called as Swamsha. Okay, two varieties, Vilasa and Swamsha. Example of Vilasa given by Rupa Goswami is Narayana and other Vishnu Tattvas. And for Swamsha, he talks about the different Leela avatars. Okay, and then he also talks about further expansions like there's a chart. Actually, I can show you that chart if that helps. This will be follow just a second here if this is visible. Yeah, it's visible. Okay. So this chart is a nice to-go chart to understand these different expansions. And many of you already must have memorized these different expansions. You must know what Swayam Rupa is. And then there's Prabhav Prakash and Vaibhav Prakash. All this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita also. So you can go to these exact verses and find out more about it. So for example, Prabhav Prakash is all the forms of Krishna. When Krishna expands the 16,000 Krishnas and he dances with the gopis, all of these Krishnas are very similar to the Swayam Rupa. So such an expansion is called as Prabhava Prakash. And then you have Vaibhav Prakash. Here the features are different. Like for example, Balaram, his complexion is different. Though he is not different from Krishna, he's exhibiting different emotions and features. So such a form is called as Prabhava Prakash. And then you have the Tat Ekatma Rupa, like the Narayana forms and all that. And then, oh, sorry, yeah, Tat Ekatma Rupa, you have Vilasa, and you also have Swamsha. That's how Rupa Goswami puts it. So in that you have different divisions. So basically all of them, the idea that is presented by Srila Prabhupada is that all of them are Vishnu Tattva only. But then they are not exhibiting 100%, okay, of all these opulences that Krishna is exhibiting. So these Vishnu Tattva, they can possess up to 93% of all the transcendental attributes. Lord Shiva, who's neither an avatar nor an avesha or in between them, he's a separate tattva by himself, Shiva tattva, he can possess 84% of the attributes. Okay, the jivas and the individual beings, they can go up to 78% of the attributes. In the conditioned state of material existence, the living beings, they possess these attributes only to a very, very minute quantity. So if Krishna has 64, then Vishnu Tattva can have up to 93% of that 64 qualities. Then you have Lord Shiva who can go up to 84% of these attributes. But the Shiva possesses 84% of the attributes. But the jivas in different statuses of life, we can go up to 78%. Brahma can show 78% of the qualities of Krishna in full, okay? Or a person who has become a great devotee, he can show the 78% of Krishna's qualities in full. But we conditioned jivas, we cannot show all the 78 in full. Okay, even if we have 78% of the attributes, they are in varying amounts. They cannot possess these attributes in full quantity. They only possess it in minute quantity, varying in terms of the pious life of the living being. So if we are not very pious, the quantity is definitely very less, not like how Brahma can exhibit it in full. Okay, even if we have 78%. So the most perfect of the living beings is Brahma, and he's the first created living being. He's the administrator of the universe. He possesses 78% of these attributes in full. But we may also possess 78%, but then it is not in full. It is a very, very minute, little percentage we are possessing. So all the other demigods, they also have 78%. But then the attributes that they display is less in quantity. Whereas human beings, we have this in very, very minute quantity. So the standard of perfection of a human being is go up to 78% of Krishna's qualities. That's the maximum we can possess. But what we can do, we can display that in full if we become a great devotee. Okay. So, but however, a living being, he can never develop all the qualities like Lord Shiva or Vishnu or Krishna. One can never become Shiva, one can never become Vishnu, one can never become Krishna. So we will not get all those 64 qualities of Krishna. It's not going to happen. And a living being can become godly by developing 78% in full. That also currently we don't have in full. But if we perfect our lives, then we can go up to fullness of 78%, but we cannot become God like Shiva, Vishnu, or Krishna. He can become a Brahma in due course. As we perfect, we can become Brahma, we can become godly, we can become demigods, but we can never become Krishna, Vishnu, or Lord Shiva. Okay, so the godly living beings who are all residents of the planets of the spiritual sky, they are eternal associates of God in different spiritual planets like Haridam and Maheshdam. The abode of Krishna, which is called as Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, is actually the topmost, and the perfected living being can go up to 78% of the above attributes in fullness, and he can enter Goloka Vrindavan, leaving the present material body. So this is how Prabhupada completes this purport, but I'll quickly review how Prabhupada presented this purport for all of you. because we went sentence by sentence. I just want to give you an overview of how this purport came about. So the translation of this verse is, all of the above mentioned incarnations that we have seen so far are either amshas or kalas. Amsha is plenary portion, kala is portion of a plenary portion. When we talk about kala or portion of a plenary portion, we should understand it is avesha. Okay, avesha incarnations. But however, Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Swayam Bhagavan. He is God himself. He is Avatari. He is the source of everything. And all of them, all these incarnations, not just Krishna, everybody, they appear from time to time whenever there is disturbance caused by the atheists, and the Lord comes to protect the theists. Simple. Okay? So this is the translation. Now, Srila Prabhupada, in the purport, first and foremost thing, he talks about the fact that in this particular translation, Krishna's position is distinguished from other incarnations. He is not in... Can we mute everybody? He is not any ordinary incarnation, but he is avatari. He is the source. He is not just an avatar who has come from the spiritual world, but you should understand that he is the source of all the different incarnations that have come. And all these incarnations can come to the material world in any species of life. Okay, and some of them are plenary portions, some of them are parts of plenary portions. Either they are directly empowered or indirectly empowered by him. And the Lord, when he comes, when Krishna comes, he has all the opulence displayed in full, because when he appears, he exhibits everything in full. There is one analogy that Srila Prabhupada gives, that there is this electric house, powerhouse, from which supply is given. So all these Vishnu Tattvas, all these different forms, they are like either bulbs, or some of them can be like huge dynamos that require more volts. So depending on the need, they will exhibit as much opulence as needed. Then in the second paragraph, he started talking about examples of the different incarnations who are Vishnu Tattvas generally, or even Avesha incarnations, who showed certain opulences. Like, for example, Parashuram and Narsimha, they showed strength. And then we see how Rama and Dhanvantari showed fame. Balaram, Mohini, and Vaman showed beauty. Dattatreya, Matsya, Kumara, and Kapila, they showed knowledge. And Naranarayan showed renunciation, and so on. But then Krishna showed everything. And especially the most attractive pastime is that of his dealings with the gopis of Vrindavan. Then we see in the next paragraph, there is a focus on the word Swayam. Initially, in the first paragraph, there was focus on the word tu, but Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Here, in this stanza, we see the focus is on Swayam, to confirm that Krishna has no other source. You may see, even in the Bhagavatam, others being called as Bhagavan, but you should understand Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, because he is the source of all these other forms of the Lord. And Krishna has many expansions, many expansions. You can refer to the chart. And Krishna has 64 principal qualities. You have already studied this in Nectar of Devotion. I will not go through the 64 qualities, but especially the 4 extra qualities, I think everyone must have memorized by now. So Krishna has 64 qualities, of which we say, here percentage is given by Srila Prabhupada. The number is not given. But 60 is there in Narayan, which means 78% is there. 93% is there in Narayan. And then we see how much percent is there with Lord Shiva. And then we see 78, with Lord Shiva, there is 93%. Vishnu Tattva is 93%. 84% is with Lord Shiva. And 78% of these attributes, the exact number is not mentioned here, the percentage is there, is with the living entities. Now, if a living entity really wants to perfect his life, he will be able to display this 78% in full. Then he becomes Brahma, or he becomes a great devotee who will enter Goloka Vrindavan. That means he'll perfect his life. But for now, we are all showing very less. We are not showing the 78% in full. Okay. So that is our condition for now. But however, a jiva can never become Shiva, Vishnu, or Krishna himself. Okay, so that's all this purport is about. This purport is important. It will definitely be a question. You should be able to write the translation. You should be able to quote the verse and also rephrase and write the entire purport in your own words. So it's an important question. We'll go to text 29. Yes, Bimal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I know this verse was very, very important. I just have a few questions on this Mataji. Now, if you point to verse 27, right, it's saying that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is avatari, right? But when I come to text 28, right, it says Krishna to Swayam Bhagavan. It never says about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there at all, right? So what I'm trying to understand is, I'm not challenging Prabhupada's statement. He mentioned he is Avatari, means he is Avatari. But do we have any commentary as well, Mataji, for this kind of statement which says that yes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also an Avatari?
Yeah, we understand that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is non-different from Krishna himself, hence he is avatari. So if Krishna himself has come, okay, in the garb of his devotee, if Krishna himself, Swayam Bhagavan itself has come again, then he's still Swayam Bhagavan. He's not come as his expansion. He's not come as his Avesha incarnation. He himself comes to taste his own the love of Srimati Radharani. He himself is coming. That's why he's Swayam Bhagavan. Okay, the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita is a verdict to it. So if you read the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially at least if we read Adi Leela, and the internal and the external reasons of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advent, we can understand that he is definitely non-different from Krishna in all respects. Only thing is he is coming with the complexion of Srimati Radharani to taste Radha Bhav.
Got it, Mataji. Mataji, if I have to categorize this into broader category, right? There is plenary portions, portions of plenary portions. There are vibhutis, there are amshas, there's kalas. So if I
Yeah,
have
the Amsha Kala is the same. In English we say portion. So plenary portion is Amsha, portion of plenary portion is Kala.
right.
And then you have Vibhuti, which is a fragment of his opulence, that is seen in somebody. Like if there is a very beautiful person, that person has Krishna's, a fraction of Krishna's beauty, like that. That is Vibhuti.
If I have to categorize Vishnu tattvas, right, in this, if I have to place, okay, plenary portions, portions of plenary portions, and differentiated portions, how do I categorize that? Okay, these are fall in all Vishnu tattva.
Each of the Vishnu tattvas, you want to put them into a bucket.
Yeah, those so categories are there, right? Plenary portions, portions of plenary, differentiate portions, right? So I have to say that okay, these three portions, these three categories fall into Vishnu tattva. How do I categorize that? Which one falls into Vishnu tattva?
Or except the Shakti Avesh Avatar, everything is Vishnu Tattva. All of them, sorry. All of them are Vishnu Tattva except the Shakti Avesh Avatar. Shakti Avesh Avatars are the Jivas who are empowered by Vishnu.
So can I say Satyavesh avatars are also vibhutis?
No, they are portion of plenary portion. They are Kala. And then you have Vibhuti, like for example, among the mountains I am Himalayas, among the thing I am, he says among the demigods I am Indra. Why? Because they have a fraction of Krishna's opulence. The most beautiful woman on earth would have a fraction of Krishna's opulence. That is Vibhuti. That is even lower than Shakti Avesh Avatar.
So Satyavesh avatar, vibhutis, can I put them under 78% category, Mataji?
Yeah. You can put them under the Jivas, Jiva category.
78% category, right?
You can say Jiva category. Yeah.
Jiva.
78% meaning we don't know who has shown full opulence, who has shown less, we don't know. I mean, who has shown 78% of all the qualities in full, we don't know. So.
And all this, Mataji, just now you read that paragraph, right? Swayam Samam Bonam, right? Now all these classifications, all classifications falls into 95%, Mataji? Category of 95% of
93, no? Of that is
93%.
Narayan and the other forms. Yeah. Not all. It depends on because we just have this classification of Shiva, Vishnu, and we have Krishna. Yeah, correct. You're right.
Okay. And Mataji, now if I say now we have for Shiva, what is the percentage it is mentioned here?
Just for 78, it is 84%.
84, right? So Mataji, this Shiva is same as Shiva which is in spiritual world. What is that? right? I'm just trying to.
Shiva Tattva in general, Prabhu, because
Uh-huh.
here very clearly Prabhupada is telling Shiva is neither Avatara nor Avesha or in between them, meaning he's not a Jiva. He's
Right.
definitely not a Jiva, the entire Shiva Tattva. Yeah.
And, that you got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. Two other people raised hand. They raised hand and went. Yeah, Param Pavani Mataji and then Sanamani Mataji.
Thank you, Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much for the class, Mataji. Mataji, I wanted to give the verses that Prabhuji asked if there is scriptural evidence, and as you mentioned that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, most of the verses indicates that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the avatari Krishna, non-different. Krishna himself. Mataji, Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 5.4 says, Sarva Avatari Krishna Sayam Bhagavan Tahare Ditya Deha Shri Balaram. And next verse says, Eki Swarupa Dohe Bhinya Matrakay Atyakay Abhyuho Krishna Lila Rasahar. And then 5 verse says that Shri Krishna Nabhati Pe Shri Chaitanya Chandra Shri Balarama Sange Shri Nityananda.
Beautiful.
And Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilila 5.4-6. It's
Thank you. So nice to hear Bengali.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for quoting. Yeah. Thank you. And Sadamani Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. I wanted to confirm, Mataji, that when we heard in the previous classes that even for Vyasdev, sometimes the Lord comes himself and sometimes he empowers a jiva. So when the Lord comes himself, then he is Amsha Avatar, and when he empowers a jiva, Kala. Is it correct, Mataji?
Correct. Correct. And then in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, there is some extra information. In the Mahabharata, it is mentioned there was a great sage by the name Apanantartamas, and he became Vyasadev. Then Srila Rupa Goswami, he confirms that sometimes what happens in this case, Swayam Bhagavan himself came as Vyasadev. But this Apanantartamas, he entered Swayam Bhagavan. That is, he entered the body and he also participated. So that can also happen. That's how Rupa Goswami puts it together. Because you might see some contradicting statements from different scriptures, but then how do you understand this? Like just like the story of Yashoda and Nanda, we say that Drona and Dara, they performed austerities. But then Drona and Dara, they enter the original Yashoda and Nanda who came from Goloka Vrindavan. They also enter so that they can participate in the pastime. It's like that. Yeah. Yeah, but to answer, your analysis is correct. But specifically for this particular personality, it's a mixture of both. Just like Drona and Dara. I don't know if I confused you, but okay. Yeah, but that understanding is good enough, Mataji, whatever you had. Okay, that's it, right? Questions? I'm not, should I see chat? Yeah, all the Narahari Prabhu has put all the references from Madhya Leela. Four qualities of Krishna, that is, yes, the four qualities. Rupa Madhuri, Leela Madhuri, he's surrounded by these great devotees and Venu Madhuri, correct? So these are the four Bhakta Jana Madhuri. Yeah, all that is the four qualities. And that also Prabhu has put the link, very nice. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and we'll do two more verses and we'll stop. Okay, that means the section will be complete. I was thinking I should do two sections, but I know it was overestimation, but at least we'll finish this section. Janmaguhyam Bhagavato. Janmaguhyam Bhagavato ya etat prayato naraha sayam pratar ghrinan bhaktya dukkha gramat vimuchyate. Translation, anybody?
I can read, Mataji. Hare Krishna Pranam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Whoever carefully recites the mysterious appearances of the Lord with devotion in the morning and in the evening gets relief from all miseries of life. Hare Krishna.
So if you want miseries from all things and miseries, and if you want relief from all miseries in life, this is the Palashruti actually. It's not that if you want relief, you come and read. It's generally the Palashruti is given to encourage everyone to read the names of the Lord. And the names of the Lord are always transcendental and they are liberating. So it is an encouragement that if you read all the list of incarnations and their activities, then if you can do it in the morning and in the evening, one can get relief from all miseries in life. So Prabhupada in the purport, he says, in the Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna has mentioned Janma Karma Chame Devyam Yo Vedi Tattvataha. So he has told that anyone who understands the Janma and the Karma of the Lord will go back to Godhead and he will be relieved from this material tabernacle. Tabernacle means a tottery platform. Okay, that is not very stable. It's a building that is built on a very unstable platform. That is the nature of this material world. So if we want to get relief from this material world and we want to go back to the spiritual world, what we have to do, we have to understand the transcendental birth and activities of the Lord. Krishna has already mentioned this in the Bhagavad Gita. So in the same spirit, this section of the Bhagavatam's Parashruti is also given that if you can recite and understand this transcendental birth and activities of the different incarnations of the Lord, you will get liberated from all material afflictions and you will go back to Godhead. So Prabhupada is very compassionately telling that simply by knowing factually the mysterious ways of the Lord's incarnation in this material world, one can liberate himself from bondage. So the birth activities of the Lord as manifested by him for the welfare of the people in general, when he comes here, these activities, we should understand that they are not any ordinary activities like the activities we jivas are doing. It is actually mysterious. But then if we try to delve into this matter with devotion, then the mystery can be understood. And not only are we understanding the mystery of the Lord's appearance, but also we get liberated from material bondage. So therefore, it is recommended that one can recite this chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam describing the appearance of the Lord's various incarnations. So if we keep reciting like this, we can have an insight into the Lord's birth and activities. So specifically, the word vimukti is used. Vimukti means Visesha Mukti, liberation, understanding that the Lord's birth and activities are transcendental. What kind of liberation? Not just some Sayujya Mukti. We can actually go back to Godhead and associate with the Lord. So these are all very mysterious, it's a very mysterious statement. You keep reciting this, you will get liberated. It's very mysterious because the Lord's activities are mysterious. So if you glorify the Lord's activities, automatically one is benefited. So they are therefore mysterious, and those who do not follow the prescribed rules of devotional service are not entitled to enter into the mysteries of his births and activities. So we should be reciting it with the mood of devotion. Then we can explore the mystery of the Lord's birth and activities and get benefited by this entire section. So the last verse, I think, in this section. एतद्रूपं भगवतो हि अरूपस्य चिदात्मना मायागुणैर्विचरितं महादाधिभिरात्मनि. Oh, it's the next section. Okay. Okay, it's okay. We'll do one verse, no problem.
Can I read?
Yes, please.
The conception of the Virat universal form of the Lord as appearing in the material world is imaginary. It is to enable the less intelligent and neophytes to adjust to the idea of the Lord's having form. But factually, the Lord has no material form. Hare Krishna.
Interesting verse. Why sudden shift, right? Suddenly talking about some Virat Rupa. The reason why there is a sudden shift in this entire chapter, if you see this entire chapter, it was so nicely flowing. First, we saw about the Purushas, and then we started seeing about the different Leela incarnations. So, after discussing the different Purushas and the Leela incarnations, there was a special emphasis on Sri Krishna being Swayam Bhagavan. And we saw how he's Swayam Bhagavan, and we relished that section nicely. And then finally, we also heard a Phalashruti for hearing about incarnations of the Lord and delving into the mysteries of the incarnations of the Lord. Now, having said that, why did Suta Goswami shift gears and get into something very dry like the Virat Purusha? The reason is because one must always remember his audience. The audience of Srila Suta Goswami was the sages of Naimisharanya. Now, we have already discussed this. The sages of Naimisharanya had come with different conceptions. Some of their conceptions were addressed by Srila Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami in chapter 2, before he established the Savai Pumsam Parodharmo, before he established Parodharma, he could understand the psychology of all these different sages. Some of them were very much into Varnashrama Dharma, some of them were very much into Jnana, some of them were very much into yoga, like Ashtanga Yoga. So now he understands that he has mentioned about so many different incarnations. He told how all of these incarnations are all transcendental. But then he realized, what about the people who are so used to being Ashtanga yogis, who are always practicing this dhyana on the Virata Purusha? What about that? For them, they might think their worshipable deity or worshipable form is that Virat Purusha itself. So, is that Virat Purusha also like one of these incarnations? That will be a doubt in their mind, right? So, are they also like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha? Are they also like, transcendental like this? Who is this Virat Purusha? So, to address that point, he speaks this verse. He says, the conception of the Virat Purusha, universal form of the Lord, as appearing in the material world is imaginary. If you read the sentence clearly, it is not that the Virat Purusha is imaginary. The conception is imaginary. That means what? Anything to do with the Lord, even if it is Virat Purusha, you should not think it is something temporary, something material, something imaginary. You should not think like that. The conception of the yogi, that is material, that is imaginary. Okay, so it's not about the Lord. Anything to do with the Lord is always pure. Okay, it is very nice. But our conception, how we are seeing it, that is the problem. So the conception of the Virat, universal form of the Lord as appearing in the material world, is imaginary. It is to enable the less intelligent and neophytes to adjust to the idea of the Lord having form. So they cannot understand that the Lord will have a form. Many of these neophyte yogis, especially in the second canto, in the beginning itself, second canto, first few chapters itself, the Ashtanga yogis' point of view is discussed. There are two kinds of yogis that are discussed, especially the ones who are attached to this meditation on the Virata Purusha. We will come to that in the second canto. In the beginning itself, we'll come to that. So, but now here in this verse, it is very clearly mentioned that this is for the less intelligent people. These less intelligent people, they cannot understand that the Lord has a form. So they see things around them, they see the world around them, and they superimpose a form of the Lord on top of the world that they are seeing. Okay, so but factually, the Lord doesn't have a material form. So for the world around them is all material. On top of that, they are superimposing a form of the Lord. So does it mean that the Lord himself is material? No, it is not that the Lord himself is material. Their conception, that is material. Okay, So let's see what Prabhupada has to say in the purport. He says the conception known as the Vishwaroop or the Virataroop is particularly not mentioned alongside all the various incarnations. It is separately dealt with. Why? Because all the incarnations that are already mentioned above are all transcendental. There is no tinge of materialism in their bodies. There is no difference between the body and the self just like how there is no difference between the body and the self. Similarly, the Virata Rupa that is conceived by the neophyte worshippers, for them, the material Virata Rupa is presented. Okay, this is again, Prabhupada also says it will be explained in the second canto. A material form is presented, that's all. It doesn't mean Krishna's material. A form is presented to them in a way that they are superimposing that form on the material elements. And they meditate on the Lord because they are not able to understand these transcendental forms of the Lord. So Prabhupada is telling, in the Virata Rupa, the material manifestations of different planets have been conceived as the legs, hands, thighs of the Lord and so on. So you all know the Purusha Sukta prayers, right? We say, okay, the feet of the Lord is the Patala, the thigh is the Sutala, Vitala, the belt is the Bhuloka. So like that, they conceive the entire universe to be a form of the Lord. Such descriptions are only for neophytes. Even among the Ashtanga yogis, this is for the beginner yogis. It is not for the advanced yogis. The advanced yogis are actually meditating on the beautiful form of the Lord. They are not meditating on the Virat Rupa. This is for the neophytes. The neophytes cannot conceive anything beyond matter. That's why we are so used to thinking of matter. That is the reason the superimposition business is happening, because we cannot take our minds off matter. The material conception of the Lord is not counted in the list of forms. In fact, even Paramatma or super soul within every material form is actually transcendental. Okay, but this Virata Rupa that we are talking about, it is only something that a yogi imagines. It is not permanent form of the Lord. It is not permanent. It is just seen in the yogi's imagination. But however, the Lord is not some imaginary. You should not think Lord is some imagination. No, the imagination of the yogi is like that. So both the Lord and the living entities are living spirits and have original spiritual bodies. So Prabhupada is telling the Lord is always spiritual. There is no conception of materialism on him. But the neophyte yogi, he begins to meditate on the Virat Rupa. So we'll stop here. We have stopped at 30. We will continue from 31, but the verses 30 to 34 are all talking about Virat Rupa. So today we got a glimpse of Virat Rupa, and then we'll see further about, how this Virat Rupa, there is subtle and a gross conception and all that, and then how we should understand that. However, beyond, even in our bodies, we have subtle body, gross body, but beyond the subtle body and gross body, what do you have? You have the spirit soul. So you should understand that the eternal forms of the Lord, they are like that spirit soul that is eternal. But the subtle and gross impositions, they are not considered to be transcendental like the other forms. So that is what is explained from text 30 to 34. Okay, Bimal Prabhu, please go ahead.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. Mataji, my question is, I know Lord Krishna is Sachidananda Vigraha, means his body and soul is same. There's no difference, right? Now, if I have to say all Vishnu's tattvas also have the same feature, like, no body and soul is same.
Yeah.
Okay. Only Vibhutis and Saktavesha, their body and
yeah, correct.
They're different, right? Body and
Yes,
soul.
yes.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so we'll end here unless there are no other questions, and we'll meet again next class. Okay, Mancha Kalpatarovescha, Krapa Sindhu Pevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnava, the Kuti Vaishnava Vranda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada.
Tivilashi. Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Shri Ram. Hare Krishna. We'll meet on Thursday, the remaining section. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
I think she is not here, so I'll take the host and end the call.
Thank you, Mataji. Pranam.
Hare Krishna.